How much money do you have sitting somewhere right now that nobody can touch? Not your rent money. Not next week's groceries. Not the balance you are planning to move around at the end of the month. Money that exists for one reason only. Because life does not ask for permission before it falls apart. If that number is 0 or close to it, you are not alone. But you are in a position that is far more dangerous than most people realize until it is too late. Here is a fact that should stop you mid-scroll. Studies consistently show that the majority of people living in developed countries cannot cover an unexpected expense of $1,000 without going into debt. Not people in poverty. Not people who are struggling by every visible measure. Regular people. People with jobs, with incomes, with lives that look completely fine from the outside. One bad month, a medical bill, a car breaking down, a job loss, an appliance giving out, and the entire financial picture collapses like a house of cards. That is not a personal failure. It is the result of a system that never taught you what to build first. And that thing, the first most foundational piece of any real wealth journey, is an emergency fund. This video is going to show you exactly what an emergency fund is, why almost everyone skips it and pays an enormous price for doing so, and the specific steps to build one, even if you feel like you have nothing left over at the end of every month. Because the truth is, you cannot build wealth on a foundation that one bad day can destroy. Everything else, the investing, the side hustles, the passive income, starts here. Let us talk about what an emergency fund actually is, because most people have a vague idea, and a vague idea is not enough to build one. An emergency fund is a dedicated amount of money set aside in a separate, accessible account that exists solely to cover unexpected, unavoidable expenses. Not a vacation you did not plan well enough for. Not a sale you did not want to miss. Genuine emergencies, job loss, medical costs, urgent home or car repairs, a sudden need to travel for a family crisis. The kind of expenses that do not care about your budget or your timeline. The standard guidance from financial experts is to build an emergency fund covering 3 to 6 months of your essential living expenses. That means rent or mortgage, utilities, food, transportation, insurance, the non-negotiables. Not your full lifestyle, just the floor. The minimum you need to survive and function while you sort out whatever went wrong. For some people, that number is $3,000. For others, it is $10,000. The exact figure depends on your life, your expenses, and your level of job security. But the principle is universal. You need a buffer between your current reality and the financial chaos that one unexpected event can create. And here is what makes this different from just having savings. This money is not for anything else. It does not get touched for opportunities. It does not get borrowed from to cover a shortfall you will replace next month. It sits there, untouched, doing one job, protecting everything else you are building. So why do most people skip this step? That is the question worth spending real time on, because the reasons are more understandable than you might think, and more dangerous than most people admit. The first reason is that an emergency fund does not feel exciting. You're putting money away and getting nothing visible in return. No returns, no growth, no product, no skill, no asset you can point to. In a world where every piece of financial content is about making more, building more, scaling more, setting aside money to sit in a savings account feels like the most boring possible use of your resources. So people skip it and go straight to the things that feel like progress. That is exactly how someone ends up liquidating their investments at the worst possible moment because an emergency hit and they had nowhere else to turn. That is how someone ends up taking a high-interest loan to cover a car repair because they had no buffer. That is how someone ends up making desperate financial decisions under pressure, the kind of decisions that set you back years, not weeks. The second reason people skip it is that they believe they cannot afford to build one. When every dollar coming in feels like it already has somewhere to go, the idea of diverting any of it to an account you cannot spend feels impossible. And for some people in genuinely tight situations, the immediate pressure is real. But for most people, the inability to save is not a math problem. It is a priority problem. And that distinction matters enormously for how you solve it. The third reason is that people underestimate how fast things go wrong. When life is stable, it feels like it will stay stable. The job feels secure. The car is running fine. The health feels okay. And so the urgency of having a financial cushion never quite rises to the top of the to-do list. Until the day it does. And by then, it is too late to build it. Here is the shift in perspective that changes everything. An emergency fund is not money you are losing. It is money that is buying you something incredibly valuable: options. Without an emergency fund, every unexpected expense becomes a crisis. Every crisis forces a decision under pressure. And decisions made under financial pressure are almost always worse than decisions made from a position of stability. You take the first job offer instead of waiting for the right one. You sell an investment at a loss because you need the cash now. You take on debt at brutal interest rates because you have no alternative. You make the short-term decision that creates the long-term problem. With an emergency fund, an unexpected expense becomes an inconvenience. It is still unpleasant. It still costs money, but it does not threaten everything else you have built. You handle it, you replenish the fund, and you move forward without losing ground. That stability is not just financial, it is psychological. The stress of financial precarity, the background anxiety of knowing that one bad thing could unravel everything, is one of the most corrosive forces in a person's life. It affects decision-making. It affects relationships. It affects health. An emergency fund does not just protect your money. It protects your ability to think clearly and act rationally when things get hard. Now let us talk about how to actually build one, because knowing why you need it and knowing how to build it when money feels tight are two completely different conversations. The first thing to do is define your target number. Take your essential monthly expenses, rent, utilities, food, transport, insurance, and multiply by 3. That is your minimum target. If your job is unstable, or you are self-employed, or you have dependents, aim for 6 months. Write that number down. Make it specific. Vague goals do not get funded. A specific number you are working toward does. The second thing is to open a separate account specifically for this fund, not a second tab in your existing banking app. A genuinely separate account, ideally at a different bank, that you do not have a debit card for. The goal is friction. You want accessing this money to feel like a deliberate act, not a casual swipe. Out of sight, harder to touch, slower to drain. The third thing, and this is the one most people resist, is to automate the contribution. Decide on an amount, even a small one, and set up an automatic transfer on the day your income arrives. Before you pay for anything discretionary, before you check what is left over. The money moves first, and you manage your spending around what remains. This is not a new idea, but it is the one that actually works, because it removes the decision from your hands every single month. The amount does not need to be dramatic to be effective. Someone putting aside $50 a month is building $600 a year. Someone putting aside $200 is building $2,400. The pace matters less than the consistency. A small amount moved automatically every month will outperform a large amount you intend to save manually every single time. Here is something worth understanding about the relationship between an emergency fund and everything else you're trying to build financially. Every income stream you create, every investment you make, every side hustle you grow, all of it is more stable and more effective when it sits on top of a financial foundation that cannot be easily shaken. The person investing money they cannot afford to lose is not an investor. They are a gambler with better branding. The person building a side hustle, while one bad month away from crisis, is not building freedom. They are building under pressure that will eventually force a bad decision. The emergency fund is not the exciting part of the wealth journey, but it is the part that makes the exciting parts possible. It is what allows you to take calculated risks without being reckless. It is what allows you to wait for the right opportunity instead of jumping at the first one out of desperation. It is what allows you to think like someone building for the long term instead of someone just trying to survive the month. Think about two people starting from the same financial position. One builds an emergency fund first, takes 6 months to do it, then starts investing and building income streams from a stable base. The other skips it, starts investing immediately, and 18 months in gets hit with an unexpected expense that forces them to liquidate everything at a loss and start over. Who is further ahead at the 2-year mark? Almost always the one who built the foundation first. Here is what I want you to carry with you after this video ends. Wealth is not built by the people who move the fastest. It is built by the people who build the most resilient foundation and never have to start over. Every time you have to start over, every time a crisis wipes out what you built because there was nothing protecting it, you are not just losing money, you are losing time. And time is the one thing in this entire equation that you cannot earn back. The emergency fund is boring. It is unglamorous. It will not make you feel like you are winning in the short term. But it is the difference between a wealth journey that compounds over years and one that resets every time life gets hard. You do not need a perfect financial situation to start. You need $20 and a separate account. Start there. Build from there. Protect everything else you are creating by making sure one bad month can never take it all away. The people who build real, lasting wealth are not the ones who got lucky. They are the ones who made sure bad luck could never finish them. Start building that wall today.